Hello! So I'm going to show you how I make a ruffle shirt. And this is the pattern pieces that I've cut out. You'll note the little jagged edges. I used my pinking shears for that. I'll show you in a sec. These are the sleeves. And the one side is smooth because I do plan to hem that, and I don't think it'll work with pinking shears. I do actually test this theory later, so you'll find that out. Now I need to do a gather stitch up at the very top and then sew those shoulder seams together. There we have it. So we've got our little gather stitch. I do 2 gather stitches most of the time because it does help make your gathers much more even. It's a little bit easier to work with, I find. You'll also see I'm using clamps instead of pins. I do abandon that because this fabric is so slippery and drapey, and it just gets tangled up in itself with those super heavy clamps. I think they're a really neat tool, probably not in this situation though. And now here I've separated out the top threads and I'm pulling them to get my gathers. I pull the threads till the thread itself is the distance I need, and then I wrap them around those end pins, and that kind of keeps them steady in place while I fiddle with the actual fabric gathers to get them to lay nice and flat. Again, I use a clamp and it was not good, guys, but it was all done off camera. So now you see everything's been sewn down nice and flat. I try to pull out the extra gather stitches because they are not useful anymore. They've done their job. And then we start rolling over the collar piece, and this is so that I can do what I call stitch in the ditch. Well, I call it that. A lot of people call it that. And again, those clamps were not such a great idea. I also regret this style of collar because it does not lay flat when it's actually on the doll. It doesn't look super great. So I think next time I do this project, I'll probably try to design a more curved, specific collar as opposed to trying to cheat it the easy way. And now we've stitched in the ditch. Next up, I'm actually going to work on the sleeves a little bit. You'll see a lot happen off screen. I hem them, and then I do a zigzag stitch over a thin piece of elastic. And I like to do that for especially doll clothes because you'll see it leaves off a lot of the extra bulk that if you did like a traditional casing tends to make things not sit right on small dolls. This looked pretty good though. I was really pleased with how they turned out. Now we're going to do the gathers for the sleeve cap. Kind of show you where that's all gonna go. Now we got our gathers in the sleeves. We pin them down. This is the same story as I did with the collar. It's literally the exact same process. The sleeve is a little bit more curved, but you'll see that really doesn't affect how you do it. And now they've been sewn down. Pull all those threads out again. If you can pull them out, it's best. Sometimes when you sew over them, it's just not possible and you just have to trim them down as close as you can get them. I always prefer to try pulling them out first. Now for the bottom ruffles on the sleeve, I know I need it to be 6 centimeters because that's how wide the doll's upper arm is. So I carefully measure and trim my elastic down. And then when I pull the sleeves back out again to get near the end of the elastic, you do your best not to lose it in your casing, because while this casing works great for dolls, it's a little finicky. If the elastic comes out of it, you're probably gonna have to start over from the beginning, which is a big pain. So very carefully make sure that you do not pull your elastic out of the casing. And we start pinning the side seams. Find out that my front panel is longer than the back, which is annoying, but easy fix. Now, when you do go to sew over the elastic that's in its casing, I highly recommend backing up and going over it a couple of times just to make absolutely sure that you've gotten it, because that will just ensure that you don't end up losing your elastic in the casing anyway. Now, I added some Velcro to the back. I chose Velcro because I thought that it would lay flat, and, well, honestly, it's really easy to use and put in. I didn't really feel like fighting with the zipper, which would have probably been another option. Instead of doing a regular seam, I kind of wanted things to lay flat again, so I just sewed the one piece on top of the other, as opposed to with a normal seam, you do them face to face. Here you'll see I finally got around to trimming off that extra bit of fabric on the front panel. I went very slowly on this part to make sure that I wasn't going crooked with that. I wanted to make sure that it was even all the way around. I did use the pinked edge with my hammer foot, and it didn't work very good, but it didn't matter because this is all going to be hidden under a skirt anyway. Now we're going to put it on the doll. We get that. And see how nice and flat that elastic lays? Definitely, I thought it was a good choice. We got our little corset. This part's always exciting to see how it's gonna finally look. Make sure we straighten up all our gathers. And there she is. I'm very happy with the sleeves, less happy with the collar, but thanks for watching.